opposite of each other, somehow we've got to tip over here to the hate anger rather than the love appreciation. So if you really take a look at the Lord's Prayer and understand the Lord's Prayer, it has answers to those questions. So, are you ready? By the way, Lord's Prayer is generally considered Matthew 6:9, and it begins. And it begins by saying, pray this way. And the first phrase is, Our Father. Now, we even name it the Our Father. Okay, so do we understand, though, there's two words that change everything. Number one, our. What does the word imply, our imply? Everybody, every single cotton-picking entity that lives or ever lived in the world of our experience. Might even include all the animals and all the innate objects. So our. So it's a universal thing. And it's everywhere. It is for all of us, without exception. So our Father. Now, the word Father we have to go back into. And one of the things we have a tendency to do is use words today in our culture the way they mean in our culture. But if you go back into Jesus' culture, he was talking to uneducated people. He was talking to people that lived by their labor, by farming, by sheep herding. And they were uneducated. Most of them did not read and write. So he had to speak in terms of metaphors. And Father at that time was considered the giver of all things. The Father was a patriarchal society. Now, does that fit with our society today? No. But we have to go back and look at what was meant at the time. And what was meant at the time was Father was the provider of everything. And if you wanted something, you went to the Father to ask for that. So our current total, our great provider of everything. So when we say our Father, what we're addressing is our everybody's great spirit of love that provides everything for us. So that's the opening phase. Okay, now, next part of it is, which art in heaven. Do you notice that you didn't use the word who? It's which. And please understand, we have had a tendency to want to, what we call, individualize God. In other words, God is an incorporeal being. Bible says God is spirit, must be worshipped in spirit and in truth. So God is not an individual. God is not a superpower. God is God a superhuman on a cloud somewhere. God is an energy, a spirit. And spirit, by definition, is everywhere present under all conditions in all situations. So we have to be very clear on definitions. And when we're praying, and the word pray, by the word means be with or set a trap for, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But the idea behind it is when I pray, I'm praying to our collective, everything that is, which implies spirit. It's not another human being. It's not another super being. It's not somebody that's going to give me something. It's an energy that's everywhere present under all conditions. And it says, which are in heaven. And where did Jesus say heaven is?
Within.
Kingdom of heaven is within. Luke. So we are saying, just in one or two sentences, our Father, that energy that is everywhere present, that is in every one of us, that is part of all of us, which is within me now as spirit. So do we need more? So there is an energy for good in the universe, which is the beginning of the New Thought back in the early 1900s. And this whole idea that we are the expression of that spirit. Okay? So our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Holy be thy name. Thy name is sacred. And what's interesting is you stop and think about it. What are some of the curse words in our cultures? Okay? I don't need to go there. You know what I'm talking about. So it's fascinating to me that a name that is named as holy and sacred is a curse word in our culture. Why? I mean, there has to be something in the root of that. And again, thinking creates outcomes. So we got that far. Where are we? Okay. I'm trying to remember the Lord's Prayer as I go, which art in heaven. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Thy kingdom come. What is thy kingdom? Thy kingdom is within, is that place where everything is perfect. If you want to look at it in a spiritual, metaphysical way, there is the ideal of everything. In other words, in the original creation, which was back in Genesis, God saw everything, and the last verse in Genesis 1:31 is, and he saw that it was good. So everything that has ever been created was created perfectly good. And our world sure doesn't look like that. So what happened? Thy kingdom come. The kingdom of perfection, the kingdom of love, the kingdom of ideal, the kingdom of perfection that we are in our root, come into the physical awareness. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth. Now, why doesn't it say on earth, although we use on earth? See, these are important things to consider. And if you take a look in the metaphysical interpretation of things, and let me, just for kicks, we're going to go to the Revealing Word, which is a Charles Fillmore dictionary. And in there, he identifies heaven and earth. So let's take a look at it. What is earth? Okay? And earth, it says, well, I better read heaven first. Heaven is the Christ consciousness, the realm of divine mind, a state of consciousness in harmony with the thoughts of God. So heaven is like the thoughts of God. Okay? And then it goes on and says, and earth, there are two states of mind, the ideal and what is manifested. So earth is what is manifested from our thinking. The world around us is our thinking, not the ideal of God. So we have chosen to change and bring into the world different energies. So the word earth, so God assigned two planes of consciousness, the heavens and the earth. One is a realm of pure ideas, the other of thought forms. So the thought forms we hold are what comes into manifestation. Now, I don't want to get too involved in quantum physics, but they're still working on this idea, where does matter come from? And matter comes from the energies coalescing. It comes in from us forming the ideas from matter or from the ethers into matter, which means we're taking the ideas from heaven, from our internal world, and bringing them into the physical world around us. So thy will be done in earth, in the physical consciousness that we live in, not on earth. Everybody there? And all I'm saying is, see, we have anglicized things. We have used language in our words because it doesn't make sense to us. But we need to go back and look at what he meant 2,000 years ago. And it's important to understand that. Because we're talking, in 3 or 4 sentences, he's talking about the word of truth. How do you live life that works? So thy kingdom come, and there was the kingdom of pure ideas, which is a pure idea of love and appreciation. Okay? And thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, okay, in the physical world as it is in the spiritual world. Pretty simple. Okay, so what is occurring now? Well, it's very interesting. I listened a few times this week. I was listening to things, and I'm real careful about being who I listen to. But I admit I listen to the debates. And one of the candidates talked about the dark forces, psychic forces. And it was interesting to me. I started thinking about that. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And the dark psychic forces are those forces of hate and anger which are being pumped out all over the world. In other words, I'm either bringing into form the ideas of God, or I'm bringing into form the ideas of man, or human. And the ideas of hate and anger manifest in our world in what form? Somebody picking up a crazy idea and going and shooting somebody. Now that's simplified, and I don't want to say that's the cause, but I want to say those are the balances we have to look at. And where do things come from? Where does behavior come from? And we are living in a world of our own beliefs. We are living in the world that we have created, like it or not. Okay? And each of us has contributed to that world. In the beginning, remember in the beginning of our service today, we took a moment and we didn't ponder what happened in El Paso and Dayton. What we asked you to do was send love to the universe to counterbalance the hate and anger that created that issue. So do you understand what we're about? Our Father which art in heaven. All of us together have a spirit of love and appreciation, and it's our job to bring that into form. Thy will be done. And thy will is love and appreciation and those things. So it's counterintuitive because the world has taught us to be angry. I've had people tell me when I talk about show love, well, how do you correct behavior? You love it. And it's totally contrary to human beliefs, okay? But yet, how does anger and appreciation how does anger and hate create peace? Somebody tell me. They're contrary. They are opposite to each other. So the only way we're going to experience peace, which is what everybody talks about, and which is everybody's blabbering, we've got to be peaceful, well then shut up and start being peaceful. Valerie.
It shows what needs to be healed. You just ask, what comes out of anger and hatred.
Yes.
It shows what needs to be
So what comes out of anger and hatred shows what needs to be healed. Thank you. So what are we up to healing? And it's like it looks sort of overwhelming if you really look at it, and it's not, because the kingdom of heaven is within each one of us. And believe it or not, I believe this message is in every religion in the world. If you look at the Buddhist, if you look at the Hindu, if you look at Muslim, in its core it talks about love and appreciation, the golden rule, if you will. And it's there, but we don't hear it as a culture. Now, I'm not talking about you folks, because you're making a difference, right? Say yes.
Yes. Yes, we are.
You see, it's an acceptance. It's saying, I am on board with this idea. And it's subtle. It's like, what do I expect? When I turn the TV on and somebody says something, how do I react to what they say? Do I immediately get angry and try to figure out a way to get back at them? Or do I appreciate them for who they are, even though I don't agree with what they have to say? So it's that conversation. And in the Lord's Prayer, I'm going to go back again. You ready? Our Father, again, encompassing everything and all powerful power that's available to all of us. Our Father, which art in heaven, which is spiritual and is within each one of us, and that's kind of universal in all religions. Okay, what's next?
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name. So thy name is holy. So when I use the name of God or some form of God, Hindus believe in 96 different names for God. Okay, and there's different names for God everywhere. And they're all sacred, and they all have energy of goodness in them. So what's next? Say again?
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come. What is the kingdom of God? The kingdom of God is perfection, joy, peace, all the good that was in the Garden of Eden, if I can use that terminology. And that's our potential when we dwell in the presence of God. So there's that whole, this whole 3 or 4 sentences has the truth that's all we ever need to study. And we spend so much time in theology and apologetics, and we look at this and we read this, and yet it is thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth, in the physical form, as it is in the spiritual form. Give us this day our daily bread. You got to put that in, because we have to live, we have to be taken care of. So give us this day our daily bread. Now I'm not gonna do the whole thing. We're gonna do the rest of it next week, okay? Because we still got to talk about evil and error and all that stuff. But you understand, just those first couple sentences change the world if we live them. And it was interesting to me earlier. I think if I remember correctly, Valerie was praying and praying in and talking about, or no, it was in the Daily Word, when I heard we have to do the work. In other words, we can hear it, we can agree with it, but until we start doing the work of actually praying for others, expressing love, and reversing the common terminology that occurs, we still have to continue with the world the way it is. Now, I've been thinking about living in a bubble. Anybody familiar with the idea of living in a bubble? Because if I live in a bubble and I deny everything around me, I can't deny it, because the forces are there. Now, there is no force called evil. The only thing there is the absence of a God. Do you get that? So if I live in a bubble of God, everything's taken care of. So if you can visualize this, just take a minute, close your eyes and visualize living in a bubble of God. And in that bubble is joy and peace and love, plenty to eat if that's important, and health, abundance, maybe even vacations and cruises, whatever it is your heart desires, is there. Even a brand new church building. And see, that's living in the bubble of God. That's living in the bubble of Christ. That's living in the bubble of Buddha or whatever. And we're right back to our Father. There's a power for good in the universe. We are all part of it. It is all within us. And it's our job to bring it and all its love into the world around us. And that's through daily prayer, appreciating each other, really working on relationships. A couple of you were praying for others this week. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that. But that's the process. I'm still thinking about this whole thing. Do you understand? We are really, really at a tipping point, I believe, in our culture.
Yes.
We are. And I do not believe it's possible to tip into the dark side. I really believe we're tipping into the light, and we're becoming the light. But it takes our work. It also takes being strong. I'm not saying go out and recruit the world. Don't do that. We're not into that. But the idea behind it is be a soldier yourself of prayer, appreciating others, loving others, and for goodness sakes, love your family. Okay? Because even families are in division in today's world. So we are one in the perfection that is. So you are each perfect and whole, is learning to express that, and that's the journey we're on. So,
Do we pray for the killer?
Yes.
We do, don't we?
you can pray for the killer, but if you isolate the killer as an entity, you're giving power to it. So my thought is, we give thanks for the lesson, and we appreciate the universe. Now, people will disagree with that, okay? But it's a good question. It really is. Because when I look at something and give it power, I'm actually giving it power.
But he has Christ within here that.
He's a child of God, just like
Right,
anybody
so we
else.
can, I would think we could pray for that part.
Okay. Valerie, go ahead.
So Richard Rohr has a book called Everything Belongs.
Yes.
And it's really kind of hard sometimes to really think about that, about everything that's bad, that we label bad, right, belongs. But I do think, Judy, that you've hit on something where, being of service, like in the daily word, about being in service to others, like what is it as an individual that we can do on a daily basis? Letting people go before us, giving someone a smile.
Yes.
Because if we live that, if all of us live that every day, then there would be less hurt in the world. There would be less anger in the world. So I think that when you can pray for all hurts to be healed.
See,
You can pray for all of us on this planet to be the best that we could be, to dissolve all of the hurt and all of the anger.
praying for.
And pray for the situation.
You do that, praying for.
Praying for.
Praying for.
I'm
Yeah,
praying for.
praying for
And for starts with the word forgiveness.
forgiveness.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And if you want to hold that individual in the light, to just send love. Surround that family, surround everybody in the situation with love and light and healing would be a totally appropriate way.
Okay?
Good, yes.
Those are what wise
Because
words.
I prayed in the Oklahoma City bomber many years ago. Timothy McVeigh. I prayed for him. I prayed for his soul, and I sent him love, and it felt
That's okay.
it felt good to me.
Yeah.
So,
But again, the word forgiveness, in other words, there's, no matter what, there's a part of me that participated in that. Okay, so,
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Go back to the Ho'oponopono.
yes,
That the first thing is, I'm sorry, is I am the source of this problem.
yes,
So we have to take the ownership
Yep.
and look for and forgive ourselves for creating this problem.
it's a big issue. And again, it goes back to the Lord's Prayer, our Father, which art in heaven. So we have access to everything that's perfect, pure, 100%. It's just going there. Forgiving is one of the gates to that. And praying for others is part of that process. Because when I'm praying for others, I'm praying for myself. And when I see others broken, I'm seeing myself broken. So see, you brought up the idea that he is a child of God. And it's that child of God part that I would see, not the deviant part. Okay? Great discussion. So everybody take a deep breath. We're talking about big time stuff, folks. We really are. And that's the core mission of this church. And if you look at the mission statement on your bulletin, that's what we're about. So thank you for bringing love into the world. Thank you for bringing ideas into the world. But most of all, thank you for bringing ideas of love into the world. Because we are one. And we are one in spirit. We're one in perfection and joy and happiness. And so it is.
amen.
Bye. We're finished, okay?
All right, thank you, Robert.
Howard, I'm just gonna say, I've said this before, but one of the statements that I really like more than anything else is, peace comes from knowing that only love is real.
Yeah.
And that's hard for us to get our minds around sometimes, but
Yeah.
the only thing that's real is love. So that brings us peace. So
Yeah.
anyway.
It's amazing to me that people think that they can get angry and spew hate and expect peace. It's contrary.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So thank you. Blessings.
Amen.
Thank you, Rob.